Violet Evergarden is the most beautiful anime I've ever seen, movies included. Kyoto Animation completely outdid themselves with Violet Evergarden. The art and animation is just so beautiful, and every single scene has a powerful weight to it, making it absolutely amazing. I want to talk about the first episode real quick. My god, is that like the best opening to an anime, like ever. The very first scene in the entire show is Violet and Major Gilbert walking down a busy road, and Violet stops at a stall selling jewelry, and she looks at a brooch that looks exactly like the Major's eyes, and then she says something that sets up the show perfectly, which is, "The way I felt when I saw this feeling. What is it called?" And at that time, she also clutches her chest, which is very important because we see the very subtle gestures in the very first episode, which set up a lot of things just perfectly. The next moment I want to highlight from this episode is when Hodgins is about to meet up with Violet for the first time in the show. And he walks to the hospital and he sees a doll that looks a lot like Violet, and remembers a time when her arms were bleeding from the war, which sets up the facts that later Violet will be what is known as an auto memories doll. I just love that the subtle foreshadowing there. Now, there are two more scenes I want to talk about from the first episode. The first one is when she runs out of the mansion to talk to Hodgins about why the Major left her with his family, and what are her next orders, and she even calls herself the Major's tool, and that if she cannot do her job anymore, then she should be thrown out. And that scene is just sad. She was a child who only knew war, and that one person who she served under and cared for is now gone. So she doesn't know what to do now, since she has never had the freedom to do anything before, not even have emotions, and that is one of the most sad things in Violet Evergarden. There's one more scene I want to talk about. This scene is way closer to the end of the first episode, and it is actually a couple of scenes. First, Violet is quietly watching the auto memories doll write a letter for a man, and Violet overhears the woman say the words "I love you," which were to be put in the letter. After the letter is written, Violet asks how she knew he wanted to write "I love you," and then when she is talking to Hodgins about becoming a doll, she tells him that the Major's last words to her were "I love you," and she wants to become a doll to figure out what it means. Which is sad, by the way, because she doesn't even know what love is, but it is also a perfect segue into the rest of the series, where she goes around writing letters for people and learning about all the forms of the words "I love you." Violet Evergarden has a perfect way of setting up and executing scenes that just make you feel emotion the entire time you're watching the show. I already talked about episode 1 in length, but there are multiple moments in every episode that just make you want to cry, because we learn a lot about each person that Violet writes a letter for. In episode 2, when she is still undergoing training to become a doll, she writes a letter for someone who is in love and wanted to date this man, but she didn't want to come on as too strong. But Violet ended up writing horrible things in that letter, because she wasn't able to understand that there is more to words than just what is being said, and that woman comes back crying, and it is here that where Violet learns a big lesson about emotions and what love truly is. In episode 3 of Violet Evergarden, Violet goes to a school to learn how to become a doll, and initially she fails because she doesn't know how to interpret feelings from words, and just writes what is basically a report and not a letter. But after meeting Luculia and her brother and learning about what had happened to her brother and parents, and after Luculia takes her to a beautiful view in Leiden, and Violet remembers something the Major said to her about this view, it was then that Violet was able to write a letter that was able to express the feelings of the person she was writing for. And it's here that Violet gets a lot of character development, because although now she can finally understand feelings of others, she still can't understand her own feelings or express them very well. And although not understanding people is Violet's weakness as a person, it is with this letter that she wrote for Luculia's brother that Violet was able to become a doll and start her journey of self-discovery and find out the meaning of the words that the Major spoke to her before his death. Episodes 8 and 9 are the best in the entire series, because we get the full story of Violet's past and how she will face her past and everything she did now that she has learned to feel emotion. There is a quote from earlier on that is brought up repeatedly in these episodes, where Hodgins told Violet that she is burning up. At first, Violet didn't understand what he meant by that, but in these 2 episodes we get to see Violet struggle to deal with her burning body and with the things that she did in her past. In these episodes, it is the first time that we ever see Violet experience emotions, and it is the first time we see her cry. Violet is broken by her actions, and she even tries to choke herself at one point. But through all this struggle, Violet was able to discover people who care about her, and she also learns to live with her past actions. The ending scene of episode 9 is amazing, because when Violet asks Hodgins if it's okay for her to live on, he tells her that what she did in the military will never go away, but what she has done as a doll will also never go away. Violet has hurt a lot of people, but she has also helped a lot of people, and Violet had to struggle to want to live on, and it is in these 2 episodes that Violet will change forever. She no longer needs to live by someone's orders. She is her own person now. She even has her own emotions, and Violet's struggle to get to this point is amazing and painful to watch, all at the same time. Violet wears gloves to hide her prosthetic arms, but every time she writes a letter for someone, she takes the gloves off, and the reactions of the people every time is amazing, because Violet is like 14, but has already been through some stuff, and you can always see the surprise, mostly followed by sympathy, especially in the earlier episodes. And to me, that is just amazing, because it allows us to see the type of people they are without them having to say any words, and That is one of the reasons why Violet Evergarden is one of the best anime ever made. I love how good Violet is at writing love letters, despite the fact that she doesn't really know what love is. It makes for a really good contrast in her character, and the irony gets brought up pretty quickly at the end of episode 5, which had an amazing scene where Major Gilbert's brother confronts Violet after she gets off the boat about how ironic it is that she's writing letters that bring people together after all the people she has killed during the war. This isn't the first time we see the Major's brother. We actually saw him in episode 2 as well, when he gives Violet to the Major as a gift for his promotion, and we can see that he is a douche pretty much right from the beginning. Each person Violet works with teaches her a little bit about emotions and how to sense them and feel them. Luculia is the first friend Violet makes, and she teaches Violet how to write the emotions of the words instead of just writing the words. Princess Charlotte teaches Violet that sometimes it is better to express your love with your own words instead of somebody else's words. Leon teaches Violet what it means to feel lonely and how to express that emotion. The playwriter shows Violet empathy and sympathy, and we can immediately see the effects of it. When she gets back off the boat, she starts to question why she should be allowed to live when she was used as a tool and a weapon and took so many people's lives and took away their dreams as well, and shows Violet the childhood she never got to have. But Violet also got to be someone who Anne could rely on by being there for her when her mother couldn't. I want to talk about the Major's brother for a second. That dude is introduced as an absolute piece of human garbage. He treats Violet as nothing more than a tool, and he doesn't seem to care about anyone but himself. Of course, in the last 2 episodes, we do get to learn more about his character. For instance, we know he's only an asshole to Violet nowadays because he blames her for his brother's death, and he still thinks that she doesn't understand emotions and still needs orders to live. But when he sees her living her own life, he realizes that Violet is a human being and not just a tool for war. And in the last episode, when he takes Violet to see his mother, she finally tells Violet that the Major's death wasn't her fault, and that she no longer has to carry that burden anymore, and that the Major is still alive inside their hearts. And then he tells Violet to live and honor the Major's memory, to live a long life, and that just shows that now he no longer sees her as just a tool for war, but someone who was brought into the family and is an actual human being. Violet's character development is amazing. We see her go from an emotionless tool and weapon to someone who, by episode 9, refuses to kill enemy soldiers because she is scared to take those people away from their loved ones. Violet, throughout the course of the series, grows to be a very kind and caring person, from someone who wouldn't even think twice about killing people, as long as she was ordered to do it. And the way Violet Evergarden handled her character development was great. She talked to so many different people and learned about so many different people's pasts, and she also learned something about herself in the process, and it made for an amazing character development. And right when she was at the peak of her change, they show us her backstory and everything she did while she was in the army. She killed with no remorse, and she diligently followed orders without question, and she eventually lost her arms in a fight against the enemy. But through Violet's backstory, we are not meant to feel hate or disgust. We are meant to just see how far she has come, from a lost girl who could only follow orders and be used as a tool, to a strong woman who won't let other people dictate how she lives, and I absolutely love that about Violet's character. Violet Evergarden is the most beautiful anime ever created, period. The artwork and animation are flawless. I honestly think Kyoto Animation completely outdid themselves with this show. It looks better than most anime movies, and that just shows the sheer quality of the show. Everything about it is gorgeous, the scenery all looks damn near real, and the people all have the most subtle of things animated, just like, look at the scene from episode 7. People thought episode 19 of Demon Slayer looked good, but they haven't seen Violet Evergarden. They are also really good at hiding CG characters in the background. They aren't even noticeable unless you are seeking them out. I honestly think that Violet Evergarden is the best Kyoto Animation work, despite not being my favorite. The music for Violet Evergarden is amazing and emotional, and they really know just the perfect time to play the music is, because it sets up the tone for the scenes perfectly. Some of the most heart-wrenching scenes were only that way because of the amazing music that accompanied the god-tier art and animation. Every single song from the soundtrack is emotional, and you can definitely feel that even when you're just listening to the music and not watching the show. Violet Evergarden is one of the greatest anime ever made, from the art and animation to even the music and the characters. Everything about the show is as perfect as humanly possible. Violet Evergarden is a feels trip of an anime, for sure, and if you are ready to cry your eyes out watching a show, then watch Violet Evergarden, because you will cry a lot, in almost every episode actually. And if you say you didn't cry watching this anime, then you are lying, because it is an emotional roller coaster of a ride, and it is one of the greatest anime I have ever seen.